My vision tunneled. My breath came out in ragged gasps. I felt the walls closing in on me. The smell of old carpet, stale air, cinnamon pie. I don't remember grabbing my phone, but I know I called 911. The dispatcher asked if I was safe. I lied and said yes while staring at my locked door like it might swing open any second. When the police came, they found more cameras, one tucked inside my smoke detector, another hidden in the bathroom vent. They knocked on Mr. Grayson's door. He didn't answer at first, but they found him inside, standing in a room that looked like something from a nightmare. There were monitors on a folding table, cheap ones, all flickering with different views of my apartment. There were tapes, not just days' worth, months. Footage of me brushing my hair, cooking pasta, sleeping, crying. I never heard him say a word. When they led him out in handcuffs, he didn't even look at me. He just hummed that same tuneless melody under his breath, eyes fixed somewhere far away. I moved out 2 days later. I stayed with my sister until I could find another place. For weeks, every creak in the house made my skin crawl. Every shadow behind a curtain made my heart race. I slept with all the lights on. Sometimes I still feel that teddy bear on my pillow, warm, heavy, watching. I don't open my door for neighbors anymore. And when people ask why I don't live alone, why I keep the windows locked tight no matter how nice the neighborhood looks, I just tell them there are some gifts you should never accept. Some people you should never trust, no matter how kind they seem. Because the scariest monsters don't always hide in abandoned hospitals or dark forests. Sometimes they live next door, and they smile when they see you come home. I put the bear on my dresser, meaning to throw it away later, but I couldn't bring myself to do it that night. It felt rude, or maybe I was just too tired. I fell asleep with the bear's glassy eyes watching me from the shadows. That night was the first time I woke up to the sense that someone was in my room. I told myself it was the old pipes clanging. I told myself it was the streetlight flickering through the blinds. But when I woke up the next morning, the bear was on my pillow, inches from my face. I didn't remember moving it. The next week, the noises started. Soft knocks, not at my door, but at my bedroom wall. The first time I heard it, I froze, staring at the cracked paint, willing myself to believe it was the building settling. But then the knocks turned into whispers, faint, muffled, coming through the wall that connected my bedroom to Mr. Grayson's. I pressed my ear to the wall one night, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. At first, silence, and then breathing, slow, deliberate, too real to be my imagination. I left that night, slept in my car in the parking lot behind the bookstore. I told myself I'd find another apartment, break my lease, call the landlord. But the next morning I convinced myself I was overreacting. I was tired, stressed. I'd imagined it all. 2 nights later, I came home late and found my door unlocked. I was sure I'd locked it. I always did. I stood there for a long time, key still in my hand, staring at the brass doorknob that was just slightly ajar. I pushed the door open with my foot, holding my breath. The apartment was dark, silent, but something felt wrong. The air felt wrong. I flipped every light switch, checked every closet, every cabinet. Nothing. The bear was back on my pillow. I picked it up. It felt heavier than before. I held it under the lamp and saw the tiniest slit along the seam at its back, like it had been carefully stitched shut. I grabbed my scissors, hands shaking so badly I almost sliced my thumb open. I cut the seam. Something fell out and hit the floor with a soft plastic clatter, a tiny black camera lens. I lied and told him I had family nearby. He laughed, a dry, wheezing chuckle, and said, "Good, good.
It's important to have people close by. Can't be too careful in this neighborhood.
I didn't know what he meant by that, but I forced a smile and said goodnight. He lingered there in the hallway for a moment too long, watching as I closed my door. A week later, he knocked on my door with a pie. Apple cinnamon. I could smell it before I opened the door. He held it out in both hands, like an offering. That same dry smile on his face. I thought you might be too busy to bake for yourself. Young people never cook these days, huh? He laughed again, that quiet, breathless laugh that didn't reach his eyes. I thanked him, set the pie on my counter, and promised to return the dish. He asked if I wanted help carrying my groceries up next time. I lied again and said my boyfriend usually helped me. The lie felt safer than the truth. The pie tasted fine, sweet. I told myself I was overreacting, that he was just being neighborly, but after that, the knocks came more often. Cookies, leftover soup, flowers in a chipped vase, little tokens that I never asked for but felt too awkward to refuse. I started finding excuses not to answer. I'd tiptoe to the peephole and watch him stand there, listening, waiting. Sometimes I'd hear him humming through the door, a tuneless little melody that would send chills down my spine for reasons I couldn't explain. One night he left something different, a teddy bear, small, brown, with button eyes that seemed too shiny. I found it outside my door when I got home from a late shift, propped up neatly against the frame with a note tucked under its paw. For company, so you're never lonely. AG. I never imagined my first apartment would come with its own nightmare. But that's exactly what happened the year I turned 24. It was the fall after college when I signed the lease. A cheap, drafty one-bedroom tucked away on a side street in a quiet old neighborhood. The building was run down but charming in that vintage way. Creaky wooden floors, radiators that hissed in the night, and neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. My parents weren't thrilled. They worried about me living alone in a city where I barely knew anyone, but I was determined to make it on my own. I told myself I'd make friends, find a rhythm, learn to love the solitude. And for the first few weeks, I did. I'd come home from my long shifts at the bookstore, drop my keys on the wobbly little table by the door, heat up leftover pasta, and binge old horror movies until I fell asleep with the TV flickering in the background. The days were ordinary, even comforting, until I met Mr. Grayson. He lived in 3B, the apartment right next to mine. The first time I saw him, he was standing in the hallway, fumbling with a ring of keys so large it looked like something you'd see dangling from a medieval dungeon guard's belt. He heard my door open and turned with a startled smile. Thin lips, gray stubble, eyes that seemed too light for his deeply lined face. "Oh, hello," he said, in a voice that was softer than I expected. "You must be new here. I'm Arthur Grayson, but you can call me Art." I introduced myself, voice polite, posture stiff. There was something about the way he kept glancing past me into my apartment that made my skin prickle. But he seemed harmless enough. An old man, probably lonely. He asked about my job, where I was from, if I liked the building. His questions were casual but felt too curious.